Remember this guy? As I've had some very nice feedback on my Dagon monster puppet, I thought I'd feature it. It's a fairly standard stop motion puppet, but again, if you haven't seen any of my videos before this one, it's a pretty good summary of the process I use. Starting off with the head, as I usually do, I try to get a grip on the general shapes. Nowadays I'm only using Monster Clay medium grade, which has a slightly wax-like consistency. You can shape it pretty quickly, but it also holds up extremely well when you get down to the fine details. Spend a lot of time working on the look of the parts of your character that will get the most attention from your audience, and that's usually the head and the torso. If you don't get those right, or if you're not happy with them, then the rest of the puppet won't work, and you'll get no enjoyment out of working with the puppet. All the sculpting and the detailing on this puppet was made with loop tools, so get a bunch of really good ones, both big and small. The clay is really shiny here because I've been rubbing it down with Vaseline to smooth out the sculpted shapes. So I'm happy with the sculpture, and it's time to make a plaster mold over it. I start with building up a clay wall that will contain the plaster. By the way, a friend of mine found it inconceivable that the sculptures were destroyed every time I made a plaster mold. Having spent quite a bit of time sculpting the thing, he couldn't grasp how I wouldn't save the sculpture in some way. But that is, in fact, just what I'm doing by making a mold so I can cast copies of it. The first layer of dental plaster is carefully brushed on. The plaster I used is called Vel Mix Stone, and it's pink. Don't know if the color is important, but I highly recommend this dental plaster over products like Ultracal, for example. The best thing about this plaster, apart from its durability, is that it's very easy to get the clay out of the mold. When cleaning out an Ultracal mold, I find that the clay can sometimes stick something terrible, even if I've used the release agent. So here's the clean mold, and I'm pouring in latex tinted a dark grayish green, and I'm using a Q-tip to paint the latex into every nook and cranny. I've now applied 4 layers of latex, and it's time to pull it out of the mold. Just dusting down the latex with talcum powder as usual to make the surface dull. The latex isn't applied evenly, but built up thicker in places where the stress and tension will occur when the puppet is animated, for example around the mouth. As you can hopefully see here, there are holes in the casting caused by air pockets, but that's not a problem. I simply add drops of latex in those spots to fill them up. You can hardly see it here, but I'm attaching a bit of aluminum wire wrapped in yarn to the lower lip. This will be attached to the rest of the puppet armature and work as a jaw I can animate. Liquid latex is used as a bonding agent. Again, the camera is a bit off here, but I'm working on the toes, which are aluminum wires wrapped with string to build up organic shapes. And by the way, if you haven't already noticed, this creature has 6 toes and fingers on each hand and foot. These toes are attached to the feet, of course, which have T-nuts encased in thermoplastic so I can tie them down to the animation stage. The aluminum wire armature is stuck together with melted thermoplastic. I'm starting to shape the outline of the puppet by wrapping thin polyurethane foam around the armature. After a basic shape is achieved, I stick on various muscle shapes cut from thicker foam using flexible contact cement as a glue. Time to add the skin to the puppet, and I start off with a head and torso cast. By the way, the teeth are made from yarn dipped in latex, and the angular outgrowth on the head is adorned with a small glass bead. Liquid latex is again used as a bonding material, and smaller patches of skin cast in skin texture molds are also applied to create a hopefully organic and interesting look for the creature. This bit here is the trickiest part of building the puppet. I've pressed parts of the puppet into flat bits of soft clay, and I paint tinted latex onto both the clay and the puppet to create webbed fingers as well as fins. Now for the paint job, I'm covering the whole puppet with thin layers of tinted latex, which is dry brushed on with a sponge. Deeper pits and wrinkles are left dark to create depth to the skin. Final touches are made with acrylic airbrush paints, and this is where the puppet really comes alive, if such a thing is possible. I try to work in patterns and details that are found in nature on fish and amphibians and reptiles. I'm crisscrossing greens and blues to add a bit of luster to the skin. The mouth and the nostrils are dabbed with glossy accents scrapbooking plastic to create a wettish look, but the eyes are also covered with this material, and that will create a semi-transparent look to the pupils, the kind of look you can see in the eyes of deep-sea fish. And here's our fish froggy friend ready for his animation. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.